and poorly written stories and characters to expensive build-ups with an anticlimactic end, and all the way to unmitigated disasters that are just offensive to the senses. Hollywood and their equivalents have produced a lot of trash in recent days. But is it all trash? This series aims to take you on a scavenger hunt, if you will, through your nearest junkyard as we dive in headfirst among the toxic. In tonight's episode, we take a look at what began as an anagram of Doctor Who, created to hide the new episodes from prime public. Torchwood quickly burst onto our screens in 2006. Jack Harkness was back, one of the most successful time-traveling anti-heroes of all time. Taking place immediately after Doctor Who's Series 2, and running parallel with it from that point on, Torchwood sought to flesh out the Whoniverse and give us a broader sense of exploration in present-day Earth. What happens when the Doctor is not around? Who deals with the aliens then? Torchwood sought to answer these questions, and many more. Our introduction to Torchwood is through the eyes of Gwen Cooper, a police constable going about the most ordinary day at her dead-end job. She is played by the beautiful Myles, a wonderful actress who exudes an emotional range that's, wider than any I've seen. Nothing ever happens, and tonight is no different. While guarding a crime scene, the police are asked to clear out so that Torchwood can investigate. Intrigued by this, Gwen observes this mysterious team who resurrects a murdered man. Unable to deal with her new reality, Gwen seeks to find out more about this mysterious team. She follows them to Cardiff Bay, and just when she's close enough to get some answers, they vanish. While the series is heavily connected to Doctor Who, it stands on its own really well. It is well written, smart, has characters that are well developed and fleshed out, have vast depth and complexity, and is very sexy and dangerous. For all intents and purposes, Gwen Cooper is the main character of Torchwood. She is the audience's point of view. She is the emotional as well as the moral center of the group. And she's someone who has worked all her life to prove herself in a job and is now mainly stuck doing paperwork. So she's looking for a bit of a challenge. And Torchwood presents that. She's hungry for excitement and is going into it with an open mind and respect for the challenge that the new adventure will bring. Gwen has a boyfriend, Rhys Williams, who is played by Kai Owen. He's not the most significant character when it comes to Torchwood team itself, but through him we examine the issues that secrets have in relationships. We get a sense of Gwen's home life. We get a sense of stability that she is rocking by joining Torchwood, and he is our anchor into the real world of pay and rent and fish and chips, and this world that's surrounded by aliens and science fiction stuff. Through him, the audience is able to have a touchstone to normalcy. Rhys is the everyman, often taking the role of a virulent skeptic and denier of what is happening. Dr. Owen Harper, played by Gorman, is a sarcastic, wisecracking dude who uses sex and alcohol to hide his internal pains and insecurities. He's the cool guy who parties all the time and keeps himself occupied so he doesn't have to examine his own life. He's a fundamentally flawed character who the audience can relate to very easily. He is the party boy, the goes out clubbing every night, gets drunk, has sex with strangers, and he is the epitome of a college dude. Toshiko Sato, played by Naoko Mori, is a computer genius and an overall science nerd. Being the most logical and calculating center of the team, her smarts, wit, and ingenuity help the team stay ahead of whatever threat they're facing. She is very ingenious. She makes gadgets essentially on the fly. She is really, really similar in those regards to the Doctor. And then, of course, there is the team leader, perfectly inhabited by John Barrowman. Captain Jack Harkness is a mysterious stranger from out of town. The team knows very little about him, while the audience knows a little bit more, but not too much. Jack is enigmatic, knowledgeable, and a dashing hero type with a hidden past. Yanto is also there. Torchwood ran for 4 seasons from 2006 to 2011, and there's a bit of divisiveness as to which of these stories are better. While some fans feel that the show jumped the shark after the 2nd season, I personally think that those are some of the best stories. It's very different because season 1 and 2 were very episodic, while seasons 3 and 4 were very serialized, going over a story arc over 5 and then 10 episodes for series 3 and 4 respectively. And in my personal opinion, series 3 is among the best ones. Series 4 has a bit of a more heavier American influence, but series 3 was really good. Torchwood examined many themes that humanity deals with on a daily basis through the lens of science fiction. The ethical dilemmas of sacrifice, morality, and the nature of humanity itself. The series also examines deep themes of religious belief, the afterlife, and spirituality, as well as sexuality and humanity's darker impulses. As with any series, there are stories that are good, and others that are not so good. Here are my top 5. For this list, I will be covering only seasons 1 and 2 of Torchwood, because I feel with series 3 and 4 being more serialized, it's very hard to pick and choose the episodes because they're not curtained off stories, they're leading into a bigger thing. So I'm just going to focus on seasons 1 and 2. Fragments is one of my top 5 episodes of Torchwood. It's not overly impressive in its presentation. I mean, it's got a weird sort of side plot with Jack's past and all that. But it's really interesting because we get to find out more about the Torchwood team. We get the little flashbacks for each of the characters and the reasons how they joined Torchwood and how they came to be the people that they are. This is a season 2 episode. It's very near the end. It's the penultimate episode, actually, of the season 2. And it's one of my favorites because we find a lot about characters. We find a lot about Jack and his involvement with Torchwood, how he became involved with it, and how he changed it to honor the Doctor. Yeah, so really good episode. Random Shoes. I love this episode. Definitely top 5. It is a bit of a mystery, and it's not a very Torchwood team heavy episode. It takes a focus on a character we've never actually met, but well, we the audience haven't, but the Torchwood team has met him, and he is dead, but somehow still around, but no one can see him. And the only clues leading to his death are photos of random shoes on his phone, and Gwen has to figure out what happened to him. And it's a really, really good episode. It takes a new approach to that whole life flashing before your eyes kind of thing, and it's just it's one of those episodes that actually made me tear up every time I watched it. I just recently watched it and still have that sort of effect, which is not something I can say for some of the shows I've seen lately. They don't have any emotional resonance anymore, and Random Shoes definitely did have that. Captain Jack Harkness. So this episode, I quite enjoyed it. It's not like the ultimate best episode, but we do find out a lot about who Captain Jack actually is. We knew going into Torchwood from Doctor Who, we knew that he was a con man from the future. That's all we really know. And now we find out where the name Captain Jack came from. We find out a lot more about him as a character, as a person, his internal thinkings and relationships and all that, and how he views, his life and humanity. Really, really interesting episode. Oh my god, Countryside. Okay, so this episode, definitely one of my favorites. And it's, purely for the creepiness factor that it exudes. It's, I don't want to spoiler it, but it has a really heavy X-Files vibe with an alien twist, but also not really. It has a bit of details of different horror movie genres all sort of smushed together with a really terrifying story about humanity's darker natures and impulses, and it's a really good episode. Really well written, really well acted. One of the I remember watching when this episode first came out. I remember watching a behind the scenes featurette in Torchwood Declassified, and they were talking about the filming of this one particular scene where Myles literally threw up when she saw this prop because the prop department did such an amazing job. And when you see the scene, you're like, yeah, that's not even acting. That's literally how she reacted, and it adds so much realism. And I love these little tidbits in movies and in TV shows when actors they stop acting and they just are. Exit rules. So this is the second part, following on from the episode Fragments. It pretty much leaves the Torchwood team in tatters. There's betrayals. All their secrets have been revealed. They're all shaken apart, and they come right back together to face their common enemy. Really good episode, mostly because of the really intense acting in it. Byrne gives an amazing performance, even though at this point his character is essentially past his sell-by date, let's say. So yeah, it was a really, really emotional episode, especially in the end. Really enjoyed it quite a lot. And now for the downs. Day 1 they won. I mean, I really actually enjoyed this episode, but it was just a little bit too much on the let's make it sexy. The whole sex gas alien thing was just a little bit over the top, but there is a lot of really good performance in there. Combat, sorry burn. I don't know. I do not like cage matchy things, really. I really did not like this episode. It has an interesting sort of start. There's a couple little interesting tidbits in there, like you see the establishment of like a false identity that the Torchwood team has to set up and has to back up all of this other stuff into it. But then we get that cage match thing and Owen and that whole other plot, and I did not like it. It has that sort of underground cage match, cockfights genre thing, and I'm not a fan of that in a science fiction show. They keep killing SUZIE. This episode, I mean, it's not the worst, but I did not care for it at all. Mostly, I just didn't like the character of SUZIE. Nothing against the actress; she's an amazing actress. I am gonna butcher her name because I don't actually know it. Indira, I think, is Indira Varga. Sorry if I got that. She was in Game of Thrones, really compelling performances, but in this, I just didn't really find SUZIE a believable and compelling character. In the first episode, in Everything Changes, she was well written or better written because it was more believable that the whole glove thing and everything. But they keep killing SUZIE. It just seemed a little bit too contrived. Like she had plotted this giant masterminded plan, and things needed to go really, really right and had to fall in exactly the right order for this plan to have gone through, which I just didn't buy. End of Days. It was an okay episode, apart from the whole Abaddon, the Devourer, son of the beast. I really feel like there's a lot of stuff that wasn't explained exactly. Like, Billis, who the hell was he? How did he know about Torchwood and all of that kind of stuff? And that was never really explained. I mean, it would be interesting to see him somewhere along the line find out if he's maybe a rival Time Lord or something. I don't know. Maybe not a Time Lord because that wouldn't actually work. But yeah, we don't really know anything about him, and he just sort of disappears at the end of the episode. So I really wish that was a bit more fleshed out. And now for my personal worst episode. Cyberwoman. Okay. So, had we gotten maybe an episode of, an actual cyber person? Like, I mean, they did this at the end of Doomsday with Yvonne Hartman. She gets cyber converted, and at the end, she stands up against the Cybermen using her last shred of humanity to blow them up. That was a good character. There's a whole regret thing, and she was, even though she was like a corporate hard hitting corporate woman, she had a shred of decency, a shred of humanity, which kept her human from being fully converted. Cyberwoman, Christian Bale just really wanted a woman in a skimpy cyber outfit. Seriously. I don't know if he's a Kylie Minogue fan. I know Kyla did a thing in like the 90s that was Cyberman inspired because she's a huge Doctor Who fan. But it was just bad, and the whole pterodactyl's Tabasco sauce thing that lets it know what to eat. It's a freaking pterodactyl, okay? It's gonna eat what it wants to eat. Prehistoric dinosaur doesn't really appreciate barbecue sauce, so yeah. So that episode was just bad writing, bad. I mean, there's glimmers of interesting things in it. It's like, oh my god, there's a cyber conversion unit. How did it get here? Had a good potential. They could have had like a secret Cyberman and all that kind of stuff. But no, they had this subplot of Lisa and Yanto and this like romance thing, and Yanto covering up for Lisa and her murderous attempts and all that. And I don't know. Yeah, I hated that episode. I highly recommend Torchwood to everyone to watch. It is an amazing series with a lot to offer. The cast is brilliant, the scripts are well written, and the characters are very well developed. If you're looking for a great show to watch in this hard time, I can't recommend Torchwood enough. All 4 seasons are currently available on BBC's iPlayer, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you for watching this episode of Among the Toxic, and I hope you will join me next time. Until then, please like this video, share it, comment down below, subscribe, and hit that little notification button so you get notified whenever I put out a new video.